Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Jason. I'll be your host on this CFL talk show, Hussey's Huddle. In this video, I give my preview and predictions for Week 6 of the 2022 CFL season. But really quickly before we get started, if you want to support the channel, as always, be sure to hit like and subscribe. And with that said, let's get started with the video. So 5 weeks into the season, doing pretty good in terms of the season predictions so far. 14-5 on the weekly picks. And with that said, let's get on to our first game, which is the Montreal Alouettes hosting the Edmonton Elks tonight as the recording of this video, with the Alouettes being favored by 8.5 points in this one. Big line. The bettors really given the advantage to Montreal in the wake of Edmonton's, quarterback carousel, everything that's happening with that team on a weekly basis right now. But Montreal obviously dealing with their own issues as well. Danny Maciocia, his first game back as a head coach in the CFL. Going to be very interesting how this offense in particular looks, if the discipline issues are, cleaned up a little bit this week against a lesser opponent on paper in Edmonton. So that's what I'm looking for in this game. Can Montreal get their offense going? And it's going to be very interesting to see how Anthony Calvillo does after being named offensive coordinator or offensive play caller here for the Alouettes. Can he help Trevor Harris get off to a good start against his former team? Actually, a lot of former Edmonton Elks on this Alouettes roster. A lot of trades between these teams in the last couple of years here. Guys like Mike Moore, defensive tackle, Walter Fletcher, their starting running back, who's going to be starting over Jeshurun Antwi this week, and then obviously Trevor Harris last year. So a lot of emotions surely to be in play on the side of the Alouettes in this one. And then from the Edmonton perspective, we're going to see Taylor Cornelius start in this game, make his first start of the season. I was not very high on this guy when I saw him last year, and I also saw him previously in the XFL, so I've seen him in a couple different pro locations, and he just hasn't looked too impressive to me, but he does have a big arm, and I think he's capable of making some plays, but watch out for the turnovers with this guy. I think that is ultimately his Achilles heel, so we'll watch out for that and see how he performs in his first start of the season. But ultimately, I think with Edmonton, I'm just looking to see if they can win the turnover battle and get off to a better start this week. Ultimately, I think the reason why they were able to win their one game of the season against Hamilton was because they won the turnover battle. I think that is their road to victory in this one. Keep the score close and force Trevor Harris into a couple of bad turnovers. I think that is realistic for this team, but ultimately, I don't expect it to happen. I pick the Alouettes to win this game 27-12. I think they're going to get the Danny Maciocia era off to a good start here. I think this is kind of a golden opportunity playing an Edmonton team with, that revolving door at quarterback and a revolving door at a lot of positions. So I think that Montreal gets the job done this week in a couple touchdown fashion. And over on the community tab, the fans are taking the Montreal Alouettes to win 78% of the time, so that is the channel's pick this week. And then our second game of the week is a heavyweight battle between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers hosting the Calgary Stampeders on Friday night, with Winnipeg opening as a 3.5 favorite. This is a battle of undefeated teams, with Calgary coming in at 4-0 and Winnipeg coming in at 5-0 off a big win last week against BC, and that's one of my big questions for Winnipeg. Do they come out sharp or do they come out flat in this game? Because a lot of times you see a big emotional victory. Obviously they really took it to the BC Lions last week. Can they come out and have that same intensity against the Calgary Stampeders, who are going to be eager to try to, restake their claim as one of the top dog really in the CFL? So I'm really interested to see how both of these teams play. I think it's going to be one of those classic heavyweight battles that's not going to be decided till the very end of the game. From the Calgary perspective, I think it's going to be very important if they can run the ball on this Winnipeg defense. I think Calgary, and I've said this before, I think Calgary is one of the only teams in the league that can really match Winnipeg punch for punch physically. It always seems like they have solid line play on both sides of the ball, no matter who they have starting in there. I think this offensive line for Calgary has probably been the best offensive line in the CFL this season. You got Kadeem Carey in the backfield, so if they can get that running game going early and start gashing this defense for 6-7 yards at a time, I think that's going to be a huge factor in Calgary keeping this game close and ultimately maybe winning this game. And I think also, does the pass rush get to Zach Collaros? I think that was a huge problem for BC last week. They had a lot of opportunities to get him on the ground, and they just did not execute. I think that's going to be very crucial for Calgary going forward in this game. And lastly, I'm just really interested to see this quarterback battle between Zach Collaros and Bo Levi Mitchell. Both guys playing very, very well the last couple of weeks. Bo Levi Mitchell looking like his vintage self, kinda. And then Zach Collaros, I think, playing one of the best games I've ever seen him play last week against BC. So what MOP quarterback steps up, or do they both bring it? I hope they both bring it, because I think this looks like an excellent game on paper Friday night. And ultimately, I'm going to call upset here. I'm going to go with the Calgary Stampeders to win the game 30-27. Don't feel too strongly about it, but I think Calgary has the ability to go in there and win. We saw Jake Maier almost lead the Calgary Stampeders to victory last year in Winnipeg, and I think that it's more than possible that Calgary goes in there and they have that fortitude as a franchise to really go punch for punch for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I think these two teams play in 2 weeks again, so I really don't see any way that this does not end in a split. I think whoever loses this game is going to win the next one. I just think that's how it's going to go. I think these are two of the most evenly matched teams in the CFL, but ultimately I'm going with Calgary to pull the upset here. And on the community tab, the fans are going to be taking Winnipeg in this one 61% of the time, and so that's the channel's pick for this week for this game. Next up, we have the Touchdown Atlantic game Saturday afternoon between the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Toronto Argonauts, with Saskatchewan opening as a 2.5-point favorite here. And I think one of the big keys for Saskatchewan, and really has been the whole season, is establishing the run in this game. I think is going to be very crucial. I don't know where Toronto's run defense ranks relative to the rest of the CFL right now. I'd have to look that up, but I think Saskatchewan is more than capable of running on this front, so it's going to be interesting to see if they stick with it. It's really been light and day compared to the running game last season. I also think the big matchup, I think, in this game is that Saskatchewan defensive line versus that Toronto offensive line that has struggled, relatively speaking, to begin this season. They've only played 3 games because they've had 2 bye weeks, which is ridiculous. But that Saskatchewan pass rush is also going to be missing sack leader Pete Roberson in this game. So very interested to see how that matchup works out, and I think that's going to go a long way to deciding who wins this game. I'm also looking to see if Brandon Banks and Andrew Harris continue their relatively good start to the season. I'm actually liked what I've seen from both of those guys to begin the year, but can they keep it up? They're guys in their mid-30s. Can they survive the full-out marathon of the CFL season at their age? So I'm curious to see if they can keep up their relatively high level of play to begin this season. And, just finally, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what the crowd is like. It's the first CFL regular season game that's going to be played in the province of Nova Scotia, so very exciting. All previous Touchdown Atlantic games were hosted, I believe, in Moncton, so going to be very interesting to see what the crowd's like, what the atmosphere's like. I'm very excited for it. But ultimately, East versus West team on a neutral field, this is ultimately how I decided it. I'm going to go with Saskatchewan to win this game by a score of 31-25, so covering the spread, and ultimately that's how I feel about this game, but I could see Toronto winning as well. And then over on the community tab, the fans agree with that. 82% of the time, Saskatchewan Roughriders are being picked to beat the Argos in this game, and so that's the channel's pick for this week. And then our last game of the week, the one I'm going to be attending, which is the Ottawa Redblacks visiting the Hamilton Tiger Cats, with the Tiger Cats opening as a 6.5-point favorite in the battle of winless teams here. And from an Ottawa perspective, the big story obviously is the quarterback situation. How do they deal with the loss of Jeremiah Masoli? Caleb Evans started a bunch of games last year, was kind of up and down, but I saw a lot of potential there. Very athletic passer, and that's given Hamilton some trouble this year. I'm very interested to see how they deploy him in this game. Obviously, you now have the presence of Nick Arbuckle in that quarterback room after the trade this week, so I don't think he's going to get into the game this week, but in future weeks, going to be interesting to see how he factors into this quarterback room. And I think another big story for Ottawa so far this season, besides Jeremiah Masoli's injury, I mean, obviously that is just a devastating injury for this team, but they're also dealing with a lot of injuries on the defensive side. A couple of guys they have out, Patrick Levels, their strong side linebacker, and Abdul Kenna, a key defensive back for them. Both of those guys key guys, and I believe Money Hunter has also been banged up in recent weeks, though he wasn't on the injury report this week. So I'm very interested to see how this Ottawa defense plays with all these injuries that they're dealing with. And then on the Hamilton side, you just got to say this is a must-win for this team. I think there's a lot of pressure on both teams, but Hamilton really has no excuse not to win this game. Obviously, Ottawa has the built-in excuse of the quarterback situation, but Hamilton has no such excuse. Coming off the bye, they've had a lot of heartbreaking losses so far this season, blown leads. They need to find a way to close one of these games out soon, or else there's going to be jobs lost around this organization. There's just no doubt about it. And I think they really just need to, focus on the small things, taking care of the ball, run the ball. I think Don Jackson's going to be starting at running back, which should be huge for this team this week. And I'm very interested to see how Dane Evans plays, honestly, because I've said it before, he is an unrecognizable quarterback compared to what we've seen the last couple of years. Let's see if he can get back to that Dane Evans that we know can play in this league and ultimately keep his turnovers down and put up lots of yards and touchdowns in this game. So very interested to see what happens in this game. But ultimately, I can't trust Hamilton. They just blew a lead to Edmonton a couple of weeks ago. I had, zero faith in Edmonton to win that game in Hamilton, but that happened, and I just can't trust Hamilton. I cannot pick this team to win a game until I physically see it. I'm going to take Ottawa in the upset, 19-17 in this one. I mean, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't have a strong reasoning for it. All of the signs should point towards Hamilton getting off the snide here, but I just don't trust them at this point, so I'm going to go with Hamilton or Ottawa to win this game. And then over on the community tab, we actually had our closest vote of the week with the Hamilton Tiger-Cats just barely squeaking out the win over the Ottawa Redblacks as of the recording of this video with 54% of the vote, so that's the channel's pick this week. But with that said, those are just my picks for Week 6 of the 2022 CFL season. Be sure to let me know yours in the comment section below. Hope everyone enjoys the games this weekend, has a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.